Alright, hi guys, Wintermute here, and today we'll be doing the second part of our robot character tutorial. We'll be rigging the model that we made last time. So before we do that, I'm going to remake that lens thing because I realized it looks kind of bad and out of place, so we're going to inset it into the actual object. Now make sure you have the Bool Tools add-on, which I believe is installed by default, but you may want to check on how to do that. There are plenty of tutorials if you can't figure it out. So right now what we want to do is you want to put that same circle here. Now we can extrude it inwards. And now we're actually going to cut it out of this main shape, and the way we're going to do that is by going to Object, Bool Tool, or Control-Shift-B, and then Brush Boolean. There we go, we've cut out sort of lens shape. Okay, so we can worry about the details of this later. But for now, I think it may be good just to apply this. It may not be too good of an idea to add a solidify modifier at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to first delete our Boolean object. Then I can select this edge. Make sure not to have the middle parts selected. Then we'll extrude it inwards a bit. I'll try to zoom in. So this is what it looks like on the inside. And how do we join these two? We can try to bridge the edge loops, and there we go. So now we have a better looking thing to deal with. So we cannot inset it like this. So that means we're going to have to extrude it, and we're going to have to scale it appropriately to fit the proportions. And you see it's getting less and less circular, so we'll have to be careful about that while we're doing this lens object shaping. Okay, cool. So now we have the actual lens cut out of the droid, which looks a lot better. We might put something like a screen at the top here. So maybe I'll do like a preliminary cut. Just for now. Just a reminder that we might want to put something there. Okay, so now to rigging. So how do we start? So first, what is rigging? Basically, right now if we want to animate it, we'd basically have to move all these bones into position and say we want to have this leg tilt forward, so we'd have to move this thing here, and then take this foot, take this foot, move it, tilt it or something. Yeah, anyways, it would be super inconvenient. So the reason we rig things is to create a skeleton that we can use to manipulate each of these joints. And for mechanical objects, that's actually pretty easy. For pieces that don't have discrete parts, that's a bit harder to rig, and you'd have to do weight painting and things like that. But in this case, we don't actually have to do that, and we can just attach a bone in the whole rigging skeleton, to each of the parts. So we're also going to be using a thing called inverse kinematics, which well, it'll definitely help us save time. And I'll show you what it does in a moment. So let's start with the body. And you'll notice that when I press Shift A, it actually creates the bone at the origin, the world origin, as opposed to, like, I don't know, anywhere else. So we want to have this bone situated at the body, and then all of our other bones will be sort of connected to it. So we can have this anywhere in the body, really. It doesn't really matter too much, but preferably we don't want to have it intersecting with any other bones. So we'll just have it about here. Now we'll hit Shift D, and we'll do this main extendy bit. So what we want to do is roughly have this follow the shape. You want to try to have the bone endpoints closer to the origin of the object, or where we want to have it rotate. And we'll hit E to extrude the bone. And we'll add one more here. And now for the inverse kinematics part, we sort of need like a guide bone for the rest of the object to follow. And to do that, what we need to do is duplicate this piece, and you'll see a dotted line connecting it to the same joint. So you also want to hit Alt P and clear parent, so we have basically this completely separate bone, and we want to have that attached to the end. Now we don't want to have this scale out from the middle. We actually want to have it scale out from that joint, so we can change the pivot point to the individual origin, and we can have it scale like that. Now, if you are less lazy than me, you might actually want to name these bones something so you don't get confused in the future. But right now, for such a small project, I don't think it matters too much, although it is definitely a bad habit. Alright, so now we'll make the leg bones. So the easiest way, I think, to do this, even if it won't be completely symmetrical, is to make one leg first and then just duplicate the whole thing and move it to the other side. So same process as before. Move it down. And right now, notice that our foot is horizontal, so we kind of want to have this foot object level. We don't want to have it at an angle like that. So try to select the body of the bone and just move it roughly into position. Okay. Now we'll do the same thing with this. We'll add an inverse kinematic solver or a bone on this side. And we need to remember to disconnect it from the actual structure, otherwise we'll have a lot of weird glitching going on. So select this whole leg structure. You can basically just copy paste it onto this side. Try to line it up with the structure, although it's not super important in this case because we're not doing any high poly character modeling, and this is just a simple mech sort of thing. Excuse me. So now, how do we actually get these bones to control things? We can go into pose mode and we'll see that moving these bones doesn't actually do anything. So let's quickly fix that. Now this might be a little bit tedious, and I think Blender's changed recently. Oh no, it hasn't. Okay, so all we have to do is, now notice that we have each of our like components discrete objects, and they're not the same object, which will allow us to parent things a lot easier. So what we want to do is select this foot bone, not this unconnected bone. So we'll take the smaller one, we'll select the foot object, or rather we should select the foot object first and then select that bone. Make sure you're in pose mode, by the way. You can press Control Tab or just switch it there. And then we want to hit Control P and then just hit bone. And now you'll see that if we move this, the foot moves too, which is pretty cool. So we'll just do this to the rest of the pieces. So this joint here, I'll just keep moving our way up. I will speed up this part, and I will be back when we're done. Alright, so back now, and we have all of our bones pretty much connected to the objects they're supposed to be connected to. Great. Now, let's say we want to move this arm. So we could move each of these bones individually, and it's probably worth noting how cool this actually is, that we've basically just rigged this whole model, which wasn't actually a lot of effort. You might want to reset the positions of these every once in a while. You can hit Alt-R or Alt-G, or there may be some other ways to reset the position, but I don't know them. Anyways, so now you can see that we can manipulate all of these bones like individually if we want in pose mode. But in order to make this thing bend, that's kind of a pain. So that's where inverse kinematics comes in. So basically, instead of moving it from the main parent joint, we move it from the end, and the rest of the bones just follow. And how we do this? So right now we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 bones in a chain, and we have this IK bone that's not connected to anything. Make sure it's not connected to anything, otherwise bad things will happen. Alright, so all you need to do is first select this IK bone, then you select the second bone down and you hit Shift-I, add IK to active bone. And now, hopefully if this works. So isn't that cool? Now our whole object kind of follows along with it, which is just what we want. You can also see this weird dislocation of joints here, so we might be able to fix that. The bone constraints. Okay, we'll come back to that. Anyways, the point is we have this pretty cool thing here that actually allows us to follow along with everything, which is pretty useful. So we'll just reset the position of all this, and let's do the same thing with the foot. So if you'll remember, we have the same amount of bones in this chain, actually 1 for the thigh part, 1 for the, I don't know, calves, and then this thing for the foot. Whoop. Alright, so now we'll hit this IK bone, remember the disconnected one, and then the shin bone, and we'll hit Shift-I to active bone, and we'll do the same thing with this leg, Shift-I, active bone. Okay, there we go. Now we have a mostly functional robot leg. Now, this thing isn't actually connected to anything, which is a problem. So what we want to do is select these 3 parent bones. Oops, make sure you select the body of the bone, and then have this one the active object, and then you hit Control-P, keep offset. If you get connected, they're all going to move to that joint, which is bad, and you don't want that. So what we're going to do is have it keep the offset. And now everything's going to be screwed up. So how do we fix that? Well, we need to fix all of our IKs. So right now, we only need to have the chain length to 2. So we're going to reset that for all of the IK bones. And this one too. There we go. So nothing gets manipulated in a way that it shouldn't. And now something additionally cool that you can do with this, aside from having it walk, is that we can actually move this, and the whole structure moves with it. But you'll notice that some things aren't actually attached. This ball and socket joint, for example. So we want to fix that by, we can just select the main object, the main chassis, make sure I have it as the active object, and then set it as the parent. And that way, when we move this object, the dome thing comes with it. So we can go back, and there we go. Now, another interesting thing we can do is have this this particular bone. Say we want to have this hold a gun. Actually, so why don't we just make a quick gun right now? So we want to add a cube. Don't worry about everything else in the way. So we'll hit backslash to make this the only thing in our view. And we'll just make like this really simple gun. There you go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe add like a silencer or something, I don't know. Okay, if you see this strange coloring, that means your normals are flipped. So what you want to do is go to Mesh, Normals, and then don't flip them. So that was what, Shift N? Okay, so hit Shift N and then recalculate the normals. So they actually, they're all configured in the correct position. Okay, cool. So we have a gun with a silencer. Looks pretty terrible. We can upgrade this to something else in the final version. Anyways, this is just a demonstration. So what you want to do is have this connected to this, I said it was a magnetic plate before. Why don't we just call it that? Alright, we'll just make this look a tiny bit better. Let's scale down this edge a bit. Bevel this corner slightly. I don't know, why don't we even add a trigger? Just really quickly. Let's go to focus mode. We'll add 2 loop cuts down here quickly. Extrude this down. Rotate, extrude, rotate, extrude. There we go. Pretty terrible looking gun. It's good enough for our purposes. Alright, so now that we can see everything, you want to make this reasonably sized. Then we can parent it to this magnetic holder thingy. Now the gun will be moved alongside the rest of the model. So if you go into wireframe, select that bone, you can see that the gun moves with everything else. So now what if we want to have it aim at like a target? Well, all we have to do is make sure you have this bone selected, and then we'll hit Control-Shift-C. I got that one right. Track 2. And what's cool is it'll automatically create an empty for you. So now this thing always follows the empty, which is really cool, which means, let's say we want to move it a bit ahead of the robot. So if we actually move everything, say we want to take this IK bone, and we want to move it around, it'll always face the whole plate, which is actually really cool. You can have it shoot at it from multiple directions, just like that. Cool, so now we have a walking, shooting, rigged robot thing. Now it doesn't look too great because we don't have any details or materials, textures, lighting, any of that. So we'll work on the polish in the next video. So I'll see you next time, and if this helped you, please subscribe to my channel because it really helps me out. Alright, bye!